Welcome to this edition of The Bigger Game, from surviving to thriving. With our guest today, Ryan Hughes, father of six, faith-driven entrepreneur. And well, you got a new podcast coming up called The Only Thing to bring this all home, right? Talking about the NIL space and the challenges there in your history with family and faith and entrepreneurship. Tell us more, Ryan.
Beezer, thanks for having me on the bigger game. This is great to be on here, and this is the first time I'm announcing the only thing. So excited to talk about it a little bit with you. But it's about just finding what you really want in your life and what people talk about your why, and for me it's more about that. It's about where do you go from when you get these big NIL contracts, and where are you going from that point? There's all the money, right? But there's so much more beyond that. And that's only for a short period of your time. But then, 4 years, 3 years, whatever that moment is, it's a lot more about fame and money and branding. It's about, where are you going? What's the one thing, the only thing that you really are striving for in your life? I think that's, something we all, and that changes, right? But that's something that we all have to have that. We have to know what that is. For me, it's my wife, right? That's my only thing. And so that's where I came up with the name. And it's so important to have that. There's, like I said, some people have the why, and mine's like the one thing I won't ever want to let go of is my wife. So
That's fabulous. I hope she's listening today.
we'll see. It's our 26th wedding anniversary today, also. So yeah.
Wow! Congratulations. What do you do? What are you hanging out with me today for? But hey, thanks for spending that time with me. I appreciate it.
That's the way I keep her.
Excellent. So the NIL space is just, in short summary, it's just the ability for college players now to earn money for licensing and other ways of branding their name and their presence, however they choose to do it, right? And so they can make money through high school, so college. So now we have a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds coming into a whole bunch of money, and all that weight that goes with it, or the responsibility that goes with it, and having no idea many times how to navigate that. And I think that's where your background, family of six, your faith-based entrepreneurship, all your history has kind of come together here to, to bear on the NIL space, and how and in fact, your coaching experience too, right? You've coached for years, right? High school, et cetera, I think, over the years. So I think why don't you speak to a few of those things?
No, I appreciate that. And I've coached, never high school. I mean, I've coached high school kids, but never actually in high school. Like, I've never been a high school coach, but always through youth, middle school, outside of the school where maybe they weren't, in organized, but we try to make them organized as much as possible. Those kids that maybe they couldn't play or they wanted extra work, in outside of high school sports, because you can't do it year round. There's rules. And let's be honest, NIL really is, it's people, we all know about it now because it's so publicized, but it's been there forever. Like, there's always been some kind of revenue or something happened with kids. We just, it was always like, oh, they got caught. They had fancy new cars or trucks, or things were happening in that space. It's just now they're trying to legalize, or they legalized it, and now they're trying to organize it. And I think it's not just the kids that are having the problem. It's the parents, the administration. There's so much uncertainty, and it's changing daily. So that's, just about, and that's where I came in when I started talking to these attorneys and these tax attorneys and the agents that were, helping these contracts. I mean, that's when I'm like, oh, there's a lot that these kids are taking on. It's not just about playing sports anymore. It's a business, and they have to treat it like a business. And so that's where my background is in banking, lending. It's always been in tax and legal strategies. And so I'm like, how can I, having six kids, always want to set them up? And I'm like, all right, well, I need to do it just, more outside of my home. I really need to pass that along to other kids and families, and branch it out versus just trying to say, oh, I'm taking care of myself and my family, but there's so much more I'm called to do. And a lot of it really has been my kids pushing me, like, Dad, you need to really speak, let people know what you do. And other people like yourself, and I've had other people I met at events, like, oh, you need to talk about this. You need to let people know. So that's where we are now.
Wow, fabulous. So yeah, so that's the bigger game, right? It's surviving through those 3 or 4 years and doing the best you can versus thriving in those 3 or 4 years and really being set up long term taking advantage of the situation rather than being overwhelmed by the situation, I think is the bigger game that you're referencing.
Oh, absolutely. You had this, everyone has that time on the field, right? There's that moment, the Friday night lights or whatever, however you want to, Saturday games or, during college or the pros on Sunday, but everyone has that moment. And there is a bigger game outside of that, right? Yeah, that's where your legacy comes into play. It's like right now you're young, you're doing it, and it's amazing. You're like a superstar, but then I think we all forget. Oh, there is a bigger game outside of that. As you move on in your life and you have your family and you build that traditions and you share all your passions with with those people. That's really what the game's about, and that's hopefully where I want these kids to understand. Like, this is short. Like, this is 3 or 4 years. You what are you going to do after? And maybe you don't want to think about that so much now, but you want to at least plan so you have the ability to act on that later.
So give us some nuggets, right? You have 6 kids. I'm sure there's a lot of wealth of experience there. I'm sure, coming from you back on your mindset. I'm sure there's some nuggets to the bigger game you just described. We could all go for ourselves.
I don't know if I have a little lag in my internet or. Can you hear me okay?
I can, huh? You can hear me?
Definitely have a lag in the system. Does it help if I do that?
Can you hear me at this point or no?
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I missed the last part of that. It was cutting in and out, so I apologize.
Taking your history, the 6 kids, the wealth of experience you have with all of that, that's huge. I think there's probably so many things you could share from there. But if you just take 1 or 2 things from there, from your other life experiences, maybe share something with us about the bigger game as you just described it, that we could all take away for ourselves.
Sure. Having 6 kids, it's always a trial, right? There's always, I say, managing chaos or organized chaos. And, as you start out, you have 1 kid and then you're like, oh, he's going to go pro or she's going to go pro. And, oh, I got a superstar. And then as you go on, you realize, well, you know what? They're probably not going to go pro, but you want to enjoy the moment you're with them. I think that's key is, you have to remember to enjoy the moment. And I try to tell all the kids that everyone enjoy the moment. This is one time in your life that you can enjoy it. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So be present. And I think that's hard for parents, for kids, coaches. We all think of, oh my goodness, this is going to happen in the future, but navigating this, I was fortunate. Three of my kids, I mean, 4, actually 5 of them all had college offers or some form of a college scholarship or partial scholarship. 3 of them went on to play collegiate soccer. So, and 2 of them played 4 years in college soccer. One's finishing this year. And, so I'm blessed. So, it's rare that kids even make it to that level. Actually, 78% of the kids, they don't even make it past 12 years old in sports. They quit.
Wow.
And so it's such a huge accomplishment, the amount of the kids that actually make it to college and play 4 years. I pulled up a statistic. It was crazy. I was just curious. And it's like a 1% of that actually kids start college and finish college playing soccer. That's a huge accomplishment. And for these kids that take on additional pressure with NIL and branding and oh my goodness, social media, and you got to be out there, talking about whoever. That I'm sure that's going to even add more of that pressure, and kids can't handle it. And it's already hard enough to play sports, but now you're telling me to go on social media and I got to talk about and be careful what I say and brand the college. I think that's just be yourself and be true to yourself. If I can give one thing, and then also, be in the moment, enjoy it, because it will pass.
That's true with all of it, right? I mean, that's true for all of us. Be ourselves every moment, enjoy those moments, and every moment's gonna pass, whether it's a challenge or a rough spot or a high point. It's always gonna pass, right? So
This too will pass. My
it,
mom always says, "This too will pass."
it can never get too high or get too low because it's always gonna change, right? I guess that's the
Yes.
only constant. We hear about it, and you just gave us a whole new perspective on how, what is that? The more things change, they say the same. You just gave us a whole new cut at that. It's fantastic. I love that. What else? Anything else you want to share?
No, I mean, I just, I think it's just, be true to yourself. I mean, that's, I said that before, but it's so important. And, be you. I always try to tell my kids, be you. And,
You
you know,
talked
I,
about you talked about in our previous comment, you talked about how sports is just excuse, right? Like it's about the character building and the contributions making, of making that young person into a young adult, either a young woman or a young gentleman. Um, and that whole growth pattern, and that the difference that, a coach or someone in your place, in your space makes, as that young person transitions through all these places of playing the sport and all that. Those are just pieces, but the bigger game there is, their own growth and development. Maybe we can speak to that for a minute because that was quite a rich conversation as well we had earlier.
no, for absolutely. I mean, it's so important to, you're not just, trying to win that game. Of course, we all want to win that game. It's fun winning. People, we all parents more so than the kids, they want to win. But what happens after that game? What transpires in the car ride home? How do you react to your kids? What do you say to them? And if you beat them down, then they're going to be beaten down in life. If you pump them up and you encourage them, and you don't even have to talk about the game. Just say, you know what, hey, that you did good tonight. It doesn't you have to say anything more than that. And just because that transforms where they actually want to keep going, they want to keep striving and doing better in life. So if you beat them down, that's how they're gonna be in life, and they're gonna be scared to go out there and do things and try different. If they try a different sport and they're terrible at it, and you're like, oh, you're horrible, or the coach is like, oh, go sit on the bench because you can't play. Well, how are they going to do in life when they go get a job or go to college? I mean, you have to really encourage our kids and just to go on and do better. And it's about like the bigger game. Like I completely I love what you're doing in this podcast. I mean, I think it's so important for people to understand there's so much more than what you're doing currently and where you're going. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's very ironic, right? I want my child to be that much better, and here I am saying the exact opposite of that, right? In many cases, when I'm not thinking about it, when I'm not present myself, I'm actually doing the opposite, expecting a positive result, right? I'm saying something negative, expecting a positive result. How does that work, right? So
that's like the
that
number one
was
thing. Yeah, that's the number one thing they say when you're reading these coaching books and the better habits of coaching and successful coaching and that's what they say is that when you get in the car, the parents just beat them down. They're like, man, they just talk about all the negative and they don't even mention anything positive. That's why these kids quit when they're 12 years old because they don't want to get in. It's not about anything else. It's now the coaches have a lot to do with it. That's why I always try to tell the parents, hey, our first day of practice, one thing I ask you is do not talk to your kids about the game. If you want to say, hey, good job today or whatever, and that's it, but don't sit there and tell them, oh, you missed the, whatever. Don't, save it till the, after the game, till the next day. Give it a 24-hour rule. Don't come talk to me about that your kid not playing either, because again, you're emotional. That's why you shouldn't talk to your kids. You got to let it sit for a little while. I like the 24-hour rule and everything you do in life. I think it's important to carry that through life. Sometimes we act emotionally and we say things, especially with our cell phones now, with texts and things happen. And oh my goodness, it blows up. And it's so remember to just set it down and take 24 hours before you respond. Yeah.
24 hours of deep rest before you start. Yeah, before you respond. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, fantastic, right? I mean, that's true in sports, that's true in NIL, that's true in life. It's true with all of us, no matter where we are in our journey, right? That's a key thing, being able to just take a step back and react versus and then not react, but actually respond, right? I think that is
Love that.
key. So tell me about the NIL a bit more and kind of what your passion is about this space and why the NIL space for you. Why are these kids, all this? Tell us more about your passion.
I mean, it's about, I've always been passionate about, helping, with the kids and building a legacy, and obviously having six kids, they are my legacy, right? They're going to carry, I hope that they carry my name on. And, if I can help these other young athletes, and it's not just athletes. I mean, NIL is a big space, right? We know about it because of the sports, but because of, the college and what's happening, but NIL is really name, image, likeness. So it's, there's young TikTokers, famous people that post, even kids that are 12 years old, 10 years old, that are become YouTube sensations because of this. And so imagine that, they get this fame and fortune and they don't know what to do. And that's even scarier than what we're talking about, 17, 18-year-old kids. It's getting younger and younger. So it's, if we can just help them build a foundation and keep building on that, and at least so they have some idea of how to set up, their business, and they understand that this could be a business and opportunity, and just, to remember what, how it affects them. And so that's, for me, it's just really trying to pass that along, all my life lessons, and having six kids and going through college. I mean, we have 12 different colleges with our five kids that they've attended. And I was like, wow, it's amazing navigating that and going to the different events and the administrations, and having to go through the financial aid, and having to, go through the applications. There's so much involved. And then you add all this to it. It's just, again, take a deep breath. And if I can just help at least one thing, I would say, if I can help give one thing that can help them, and, that could change their life, personally or financially, then I did my job. Like, if I just really want to help them with one thing, and, whatever that is, if they take something from it and they learn and they're able to carry that with them to their kids and their grandkids, then that's where I feel success in what I'm doing, and hope I can do that. That's where with NIL, and it's talked about, everyone knows about it. And that's really what I want to be able to give to them.
So why you?
Honestly, it wasn't me. I'm the non-social, I don't want to really be in front of the camera. I don't want to be out there. But people come on and tell them, my kids, number one, for years, because and fortunately they had me, right? They had me as their father. So they know how to set up their Roth IRA. They know how to set up their business structure. They know how to do a trust and they how to deal with banks and how to handle credit, and they know how to live their life, because that was my background. But they had that. But they also know, like, I try to be very supportive of what they wanted. And even though I wanted to do different things, I wanted my girls to play softball. I mean, I love softball. I coached it for many years with all of them. They wouldn't play soccer. It killed me, just killed me. But you know what? At least they kept carrying that forward and they kept going on, which to me was that I did something right, because they kept wanting to play. They kept going back. And so passing that along for them to just have that passion and they want to do it. I didn't push them. I just said, hey, you do what you want to do. I think being able to give that to other people and kids and parents, just that encouragement, to encourage your kids, like you said, encourage them versus beat them down. And, don't be negative, be positive. I'm always about, just be positive, glass half full. How do you change? How do you say things? It's so important to think that the way you talk to your kids, and so if I can pass that along. But anyways, my kids, and then I had other people that just kept on saying, you need to get out there and talk about this. I went to an event, and they were talking about NIL, and it was amazing how so many people, they have no idea. They don't even know. A lot of people don't even know what it is. They don't understand that it's not just athletes, but it's also, they don't understand how it's affecting families and I mean, colleges, university coaches. They're trying to make it better, but there's still a lot of and plus I've seen it firsthand. So that's with some of my family members and that have been involved with it, and how difficult it can be. So.
So they can count on you for helping them, like that whole financial literacy thing that really isn't addressed in schools these days, in any real capacity, right? You really give them a real world education on all the things you just talked about, the Roth, their real estate plan, their trust planning, all those pieces you just talked about, and then are there to kind of, as an objective resource, being able to navigate, help them navigate this conversation. And I probably do it for other people outside of the NIL as well. People that are looking to kind of understand how to navigate and set themselves up financially for success down the road. So
Yeah,
I think that's what they get. Some people are gonna. I'm sure people are just out there trying to make as much money off of these people as they can. Right? It's tough. Who do you trust? You come in all this money, you don't know how to handle it, and then who do you know who to trust?
yeah,
So you're that one resource they can contact to help keep everything up and up and straight for them, which I think is huge.
yes, and it's not. I'm not making it. It's not for me. Like obviously, there may be money in this down the road with what I'm doing, but that it's not about the money. And it's for me. It's doing the right thing. I'm not some. I'm not a certified financial planner. I don't. I'm not a. But it's. I don't have those certain credentials or CPA or whatever. But But those are my clients, or those have been my clients for many years. So I know the good ones, the bad, ugly. Who truly cares and wants what's best for people. And if I can bring them on the the podcast and yours, and we can spread the word, and they're on there speaking, they truly want what's best for people, then it's going to help. It's really going to help this industry and these kids grow, and ultimately it's going to help our country, the world. It's going to expand out from there. So
Yeah, the ripple effect, right? One good deed and how far it ripples out, we have no idea. So yeah, I get all that. Is there anything else you want to share today? Do you want to bring it all home now with some final thoughts, or where do you want to go next, Ryan?
no, I think no, this is great. I think this all plays together with I say there's obviously with the bigger game and it's I literally always said winning's not everything, it's the only thing. And that's why I came up. The only thing is I would always tell my kids that, kind of kidding, but I meant it, because obviously famous quote Vince Lombardi, and he made it made that quote famous. And then on top of that, the why, and you actually told me about, with oh gosh, Jared Allen, and his speech and how he talks about, if he goes, he gets there and and all they talk about is him going to the Hall of Fame, but ultimately he failed, right? If that's all that people talk about, then he failed, because it's about his wife and it's about his girls, it's about the legacy that they carry forward. And if I can help, I always thought, oh, my kids are my legacy, but there's so many more kids out there that if I can help, how much greater is that legacy? Where does that go? And that's ultimately is the goal.
It's fantastic. When people want to reach out to you, Ryan, how do they contact you?
It's a good question. I will be. It's all on all the social medias. Ryan Hughes. So I will be on all the YouTube and all the Instagram. The website won't be launched yet, because honestly, this is brand new. This is the first time it's coming out live, so it will all be launched in the next couple of weeks. But it will definitely be. I'm on all the LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever, TikTok. So I'm all over all those channels as well. So just Ryan Hughes NIL.
And we got to break the news here on the bigger game about your podcast. So that's fantastic. Thanks for giving us the opportunity for that. Thanks for being on today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.